My name is Sarah. I am 20 years old, and today I want to share a story about my first night as a wife. When you imagine a wedding night, what do you see? Perhaps you picture soft rose petals on a bed, sweet music playing, and two people deeply in love, ready to begin their life together. That is the dream, and it was what every girl in my town hoped for. But my reality was very different. On my wedding night, the white bed didn't look romantic to me. It looked like a grave. The man standing in the room wasn't my love. I thought he was my owner. People always said, "Sarah, marriage is the beginning of a woman's life." Yet, standing there in my heavy white dress, I felt my freedom was ending, not my life beginning. I was terrified. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break my ribs. I was alone with a man I barely knew, a man everyone said was dangerous. I was convinced he was a monster who would hurt me, but I was wrong. What happened behind that locked door changed everything I understood about men and about love. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. It was 2 weeks before the wedding, in the year 1974. I was a normal girl, working at a small library, loving books and tea, and dreaming of travel and a love that would inspire poetry. But life doesn't always follow our dreams. One Tuesday evening, I came home to an unnaturally quiet house. I found my father in the kitchen, his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. He was a strong man, but that night he was sobbing like a child. "Papa, what's wrong?" I whispered. He looked up with red, aged eyes. On the table lay a yellow envelope. "I gambled, Sarah," he said, his voice broken. "I lost everything, the money, the shop, even this house." I couldn't breathe. The house was our last connection to my mother. When he named the fortune he owed, my world crumbled. We could never repay it. Then he looked at me with desperate eyes and said, "There is a way out." He explained that a man named James Sterling had bought his debt. Everyone knew of James Sterling. He was a 30-year-old wealthy businessman, powerful and rumored to be as cold as ice. My father quietly explained Mr. Sterling's offer. He would forgive the debt and let us keep the house. All he wanted in return was a wife. He wanted me. "You sold me," I whispered in disbelief. "It's the only way, Sarah," my father pleaded, tears in his eyes. "Please do it for your mother's house." I ran to my room and cried until I had no tears left. Looking at my mother's photos, I knew I couldn't let my father lose everything. I decided to sacrifice myself. I decided to marry the monster. The wedding day arrived too quickly on a hot July day. The church was filled with strangers, business partners, and wealthy families, all smiling and celebrating. They saw a lucky bride, but they didn't see my shaking hands or the fear in my eyes. Before the ceremony, James's mother visited me. Without a word of warmth, she opened a velvet box containing a thick, heavy gold necklace. "This is the Sterling family heirloom," she said coldly, fastening it around my neck. Click. It was heavy, not like jewelry, but like a chain. The gold felt cold and sharp against my skin. "Do not lose it," she warned. "This necklace is worth more than your life." Walking down the aisle, the heavy gold pressed painfully into my collarbone. At the altar stood James. He was tall and broad-shouldered in his black suit, with dark hair and sharp eyes. He wasn't smiling, his jaw was tight. I thought he looked angry, trapped in this deal just like me. Our vows sounded like a business transaction, and his kiss was quick and dry. I was sure he hated me, and that my life would be horrible. The reception ended late, and we drove to his estate in a long, black luxury car. The silence inside was complete. I pressed myself against one window, and he stared out the other. Once, he looked at me and seemed about to speak, but he just sighed and turned away. To me, that sigh confirmed he was already tired of his new possession. His home was a huge gray stone mansion that felt more like a cold, scary castle. Inside, our footsteps echoed on the marble floors. It was just the two of us. I felt small, like a prisoner entering her cell. "The bedroom is upstairs," he said, his first words in an hour. I followed him silently up the wide staircase, each step bringing me closer to the moment I dreaded. We entered a massive bedroom, dominated by a giant bed with red silk sheets. To me, they looked like blood. Then came the sound that still haunts my dreams. Click. James locked the door and put the key in his pocket. My blood ran cold. He's locked me in so I can't run, I thought. The room was silent except for the ticking clock, a countdown to my anticipated pain. James turned away and began to undress slowly, taking off his jacket, loosening his tie. Every movement felt like a threat. I pressed my back against the wall, arms crossed protectively over my chest. The heavy necklace felt like it was choking me. My hands shook uncontrollably as I squeezed my eyes shut, whispering a silent plea for it to be quick. I heard his footsteps approach and stop right in front of me. I could smell his cologne, feel his shadow. I squeezed my eyes tighter, waiting for his hands to grab me. My heart pounded like a drum. "Sarah." His voice was soft, uncertain. I didn't open my eyes. Then I felt his hands. I flinched violently. "Shh, it's okay," he whispered. "Stay still." But his fingers didn't touch my body or my dress. They gently touched my neck. He wasn't trying to undress me. He was trying to remove the necklace. I opened my eyes slowly. James stood close, but he wasn't looking at me with desire. He was focused on the necklace with a frown. "This thing is digging into your skin," he mumbled. "Your neck is red." His big fingers were incredibly gentle as he struggled with the small clasp. He was so close I could feel his warm breath, but he made no other move. Finally, snap! The lock opened and the heavy weight was lifted from my neck. He placed the necklace on the table with a loud clank and immediately stepped back, giving me space. I took a deep breath, the first real one all day, and rubbed my sore neck, looking at him in shock. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You bought me. I'm your property." James looked confused, then hurt. "Bought you? Is that what you think?" "You paid my father's debt," I insisted, "so you owned me." He sighed and ran a hand through his hair, looking tired. "Sarah, I paid the debt because your father saved my father's life in the war 20 years ago. I owed him. When I heard he was in trouble, I wanted to help. I offered to clear the debt as a gift, but he refused my charity." I was stunned. The only way he would accept the help, James continued, was if it was a marriage alliance. He wanted to feel like he was giving something back. He insisted on it.
I agreed because I thought I could give you a good life. He looked down, suddenly appearing shy. I know people think I'm cold and ruthless, but I was scared too, Sarah. I don't know how to talk to women. I didn't smile today because I was terrified you would hate me. And when I saw you shaking in the car, I knew you were afraid of me. I felt like a monster. I looked at him and truly saw him for the first time, his nervous hands, the kindness in his eyes. He wasn't a villain. He was just a lonely man trapped in the same misunderstanding as me. Suddenly, a loud grumble broke the silence. My stomach. I hadn't eaten all day from nerves. A small, beautiful smile appeared on James's face. "You're hungry," he stated. He left and returned a few minutes later, relaxed and without his suit jacket. In his hands, he held a simple plate with 2 cheese and tomato sandwiches and 2 glasses of milk. "It's all I could find," he apologized. He sat down on the thick rug and patted the spot next to him. I hesitated, then kicked off my painful heels and sat beside him on the floor. In our wedding clothes, eating cheese sandwiches in the middle of the night, it was the strangest and most wonderful moment.
We talked for an hour about his hatred for his suit and my hatred for my dress, his secret fear of spiders, and our shared love of jazz music and books. The fear and the walls between us melted away with every word. Finally, he stood and looked at the big red bed. "You take the bed," he said firmly. He pointed to the velvet sofa. "I'll sleep there." "But it's our wedding night," I said. "People expect—" He looked at me with serious intensity. "Sarah, you are my wife, not my prisoner. We have a lifetime. I promise I won't touch you until you ask me to." He grabbed a pillow and blanket. "Sleep. Lock the door if it makes you feel safe." That night, I slept alone in the big red bed with the door unlocked. I watched James sleeping peacefully on the sofa. The knot of fear in my stomach was gone. I didn't feel passion or lust. I felt something far more important. I felt safe. I realized the heavy gold necklace was just metal. It didn't bind me. What truly binds 2 people is not a contract, a debt, or a piece of jewelry. It is respect. A real man does not use his power to control you. He uses his power to protect your peace. True love doesn't rush. It waits. It listens. And sometimes true love starts with a cheese sandwich and a promise of safety. James and I have been married for 50 years now. He is still my best friend, and he is still afraid of spiders. But that first night was the night I truly fell in love with him. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone you love. Everyone deserves to know that love should always feel safe. I am Sarah, and this was my story. Thank you for listening.
Here are 15 key phrases from Sarah's story, along with a short explanation for each in English. 1. The white bed did not look romantic. It looked like a grave. This shows Sarah's deep fear. For her, the wedding night was not a new beginning, but the end of her freedom. 2. I felt like my freedom was ending. Sarah saw marriage not as a fresh start, but as an end to her independent life. 3. He was not my love, he was my owner. This reflects Sarah's initial view of her husband as a buyer who now controlled her. 4. You sold me. Sarah's shocking reaction when she realized her father had arranged the marriage to pay off his debt. 5. It felt like a chain. The gold necklace from her mother-in-law symbolized captivity and ownership to Sarah. 6. Click. James locked the door. The sound of the lock intensified Sarah's fear and dread about the wedding night. 8. I waited for his hands to grab me. This shows the terrible expectations Sarah had for what was about to happen. 9. He wasn't trying to take off my dress, he was trying to take off the necklace. The turning point. James wasn't trying to harm her, he was concerned for her comfort. Your neck is red. A simple observation that revealed James' gentle and caring nature. 10. Is that what you think? I didn't buy you. James's shocked response when he realized Sarah believed she was his property. 11. I was scared too, Sarah. James admits his own fear, showing his vulnerability and honesty. 12. I felt like a monster. James reveals he was hurt by Sarah's fear and never wanted to be seen that way. 12. 2 simple sandwiches and 2 glasses of milk. The humble meal that broke the ice and brought them together as humans, not strangers. 14. I promise I won't touch you until you ask me to. James's most important promise, proving his respect for Sarah's boundaries and consent. 15. True love starts with a cheese sandwich and a promise of safety. The beautiful lesson of the story. Love is built on small kindnesses, respect, and making someone feel secure.